Hey boys and girls, Jester here, and welcome back to the court. Now before we really kick off, I just want to say this is going to be a really quick episode, really short episode, because I'm really busy this weekend. I don't usually work Sundays, but I am this week. I'm working Sunday this week. I'm probably working right now as of you watching this video. Don't usually work Sundays. I usually have my whole Sunday off, and I'll record this in the morning and I'll put it out in the afternoon. But this week I'm working the Sunday, so I'm having to pre-record this on the Saturday, and then I'll edit it tomorrow, and you'll see it tomorrow, obviously, because you're watching it right now. Duh. And then just keeping this one really quick and just straight to the point, it's going to be the first time I actually do what I used to say this show would be including. I'm going to talk about a video I watched this week, or actually in this case a collection of videos I watched this week, that were absolutely friggin' amazing, and yes, they're on YouTube. I'm talking about the Platoon of Power Squadron, devised by Jake Jarvi, which is absolutely goddamn amazing. Now I'll put your little link up around here somewhere, and when you go and see it, you'll obviously see why I'm so interested, because it seems to be a bit of a theme going on with these shows. I'm always talking about superhero stuff, but this in particular is an amazing, amazing superhero story. Having said that, even Jake Jarvi himself, I feel, would say there's probably less a superhero story, more a story about people who happen to have superpowers. And I love that, as there's a really good distinction to make as a writer. In my personal opinion, I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm a big writer, I know these things. I just mean, in my opinion, as a writer or as an aspiring writer, I found that to be a really good distinction to make, a really good tactic to use. Now the story follows four main characters, two guys, two girls, and they are Jonas and Donald are the guys, and Virginia and Sebastian are the girls. I discovered this show through Wheezy Waiter, who I've been a fan of for quite a while, and he plays Donald. And Donald's an amazing character, he's a fantastic character, brilliant character. But each one of them is just as amazing in their own right. And just to play favourites here, I'm going to give you my ranking of my favourite characters in order. I'm going to go with Donald to Jonas to Sebastian to Virginia. That may speak to a little bit of sexism, but it was not intended. This is purely just based on what their powers are and the kind of stories they've had and what they can do with the powers, and just the wow factor of their particular arcs and things they've done and things that have come into the story because of them and all this kind of thing. You know, all the different factors that, you know, we all see and all kind of thing running through any kind of story. Now as for the show itself, I'm not going to give any spoilers. I'm just going to give like general points and, you know, things that you'd find out in the first episode and then things that you know about the show as a whole thing anyway. When you start off in the first episode, you find these four people in their mid to late 20s, I believe, have all chanced upon living in the same rented apartment, and there are hints at the question of why these four people that happen to have powers suddenly find each other. Because as far as we know right from the get-go, they're the only people in the world with powers. Now episode 1 was, and each episode is split into little parts that he releases every day for however many parts he has, but it started with episode 1 back in 2009. And the most recent episode, episode 7, was just finished just 2 days ago on Friday, with part 4 or 5, I think, can't remember now, of episode 7, part 6. And the whole thing has just gotten better and better and better. Now I don't know if this speaks to Jake Jarvi's particular skills in this kind of stuff getting better over time, or if it's just that he didn't have editing software to keep up with his genius or not. But the production level of the whole thing has improved with every episode, to a point now where it's just completely different, but it's still just as amazing. The story is the main thing that you're concentrating on. I'd like to say the show kind of reminds me of anything Joss Whedon's ever done meets Lost. Because he's got the whole group dynamic going on in only that kind of way that a really good writer, and in particular I praise Joss Whedon for this more than anybody, for being able to bring a team together and each one has their place and their part and all this kind of thing. I think I talked about this last week when I was talking about Joss Whedon in his reveals in Comic Con. But Jake Jarvi very much does the same thing, and very, very well. But it meets Lost in the way that, and Heroes to an extent, in the way that each episode has its answers, but then it brings new questions about it as well. But they're not like the Lost questions that you're annoyed because you never get an answer for again. Ever. Sometimes. Ever. All the time, actually. Some more like Heroes, they're actually questions that you get your answers to. Although I suppose Heroes isn't even perfect for that either. So even more evidence that this thing is the best series ever. Ever. Ever, ever. Ever. Now that might be exaggeration because I'm kind of fanboying right now, but I'm seriously in love with this show. I cannot wait for episode 8 to come out. Now obviously I've left some big details out of this as to what the character's powers and all that kind of thing are. I've done that on purpose because I want you guys to go and watch it. Go watch it and preferably start from episode 1 and go through the whole thing. It won't take that long. I did it in about a day. Less than a day actually. And I want you to go and watch it, find all these finer details out for yourself, watch the whole thing and come back to me and tell me what you think about it. Tell me what your favourite parts and all this kind of things. And give props to Pineapple Boy Films and Jake Jarvi because he is brilliant. This is iconic stuff, in my opinion, anyway. But if you're one of those people that don't want to spend all that time watching the whole thing, he himself has said that episode 5 is probably the best one to watch. But still, I implore you, watch the whole thing. It is so good. This brings me on to some other points now. Jake Jarvi is the kind of writer that I aspire to be. Kind that has his group, his group dynamics rather, and he does them so perfectly. Gets his team together, or just main characters. Doesn't even have to be a team or whatever. I don't know. Just a group of people, and they all work off of each other, and they all do this kind of thing. And there's questions and there's answers, but there's some questions that don't get answers, and some answers that don't make sense. And he invents this world, and it makes sense, but it's not like it doesn't have to make sense. I don't know where I'm going with this now. I've got it in my head, can't really voice it. That's the kind of thing I aspire to do on my own blog, with my own writings. I'm nowhere near as good as Jake Jarvi, I'm not saying that, but I'm trying. And I just have to praise Jake Jarvi for being another form of inspiration for me and all this kind of thing. Even way after the fact that I've already started writing my stuff, he has come now and he has become an inspiration even so, in hindsight, foresight, whatever. So on top of you coming back and telling me what you think of Platoon, of Power Squadron, I want the question of the week this week is going to be to do with this whole thing as well. If you were going to have your own team of superheroes or your own story, and I'm not asking you to write me a whole story because obviously comment space is only so big, but tell me what your characters would be, in terms of gender, name, powers, or if they had any. I mean, superhero teams don't necessarily have to have powers. It could be Batman and Iron Man, or that kind of thing. And tell me what you reckon if you were going to write something, or if you wanted to watch something, what your perfect dynamic would be, your perfect number of members, perfect powers, all this kind of thing, how they play off each other, what the storyline would be, all this kind of thing. Do you know that bullet points? Just make something up off the top of your head. I don't mind. I'm not going to steal your ideas, obviously, because as soon as you put them down in the comment space, that's pretty much copyright to your name anyway. And I just want us to all bounce off each other, because if you hadn't noticed, on top of always talking about the superhero stuff, I always try and encourage people to think and imagine and write their own stuff, because I think the world should be filled with story writers. Story writers, be they fiction or faction, is that a word? Probably not, I'm going to use it though. Story writers, be they of faction or fiction, are the most interesting people. Regardless of what they're writing about, the people who write are always such interesting people in my opinion. Some of my best friends are the most interesting people I know are or want to be writers, and it's just so much more fun when you've got someone to talk to who has an imagination similar to yours, an interest similar to yours. So maybe this is actually more to do with the fact that that's who I am as well, but I still feel like the whole world should be filled with them anyway. Probably prejudiced. Not prejudiced, biased. Wrong word. Probably biased. But anyway, that'll have to do for this week, boys and girls, because I'm going to have to stop recording this and I'm going out. And then I'm working tomorrow, and I've got to edit this when I get in, and all that kind of stuff. Oh, you know what I mean. So I'll see you through the week. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you see, and you want to see more. And it's been fun. I've been Jester, you've been awesome. I've done this completely out of order, but I've not got time to stop and try again. Ah well, never mind. Bye guys.